Welcome back, everyone. This time we're going to be getting into some of the larger drawer units, the rollouts or pullouts. There are a few of those in the kitchen, but we're going to be making the first 3 of them. This time we're going to be doing the oil vinegar spice rack rollout. We have a magic corner unit, which needs basically trays to go into it, and the hardware mechanism has to be installed. And we have the trash bin rollout pullout thing to do as well. So it's been a little while since we started with the model, but basically we're going to be working in this corner here of the kitchen. On the left here, you can see the oil vinegar spice rack pullout thing. This door right here is the blind corner, which is going to have the magic corner unit installed in it. And then turning the corner here by the sink, we have the trash can pullout thing, which is right there. And because reasons, we're going to start left to right, so we're going to start on the oil vinegar spice rack pullout thing first. So here's my initial sketch of that pullout. So essentially this is the front plane of it, and how this is going to be built is going to be like a solid front and back piece, and we're going to connect those 2 pieces with a series of 6 rails that will dovetail into the side. That's the cross section of the rails tying the front and back together. And then we will set in some panels. I'll probably just use that white oak stock, that plywood stuff, and we'll set that down in there to create a little platform for everything to go on. This top section here is sized for oil bottles. I think the tallest one we have is like 11 and change, and this setup gives me 12 inches of clearance for those tall oil bottles on top. And then the bottom will probably be, I don't know what it'll be, but we're going to put a adjustable shelf in here on shelf pins, and that can be moved up or down wherever for the shorter items. So here are the pieces for the front and for the back. So those will be, kind of something like that. And then I have the stock here for all of the fixed rails. So they'll join the front and back together, something like this. And I think for the top one, instead of going all the way to the top, I'm going to come down here like this. And I'm going to go ahead and dovetail these in, which is completely unnecessary. The front face and the back face of this you'll never see, so you could just do a butt joint and screw them together. That would be just fine, but because everything else in this kitchen is dovetailed, I'm going to dovetail these as well. That's that. The only little thing with dovetailing these is we're going into edge green or whatever with a dovetail. So on the bottom, what I'll do is I'll just do a half tail, because if I do a tail on the bottom here, and I have a tail right like this, that pin is going to be super weak because this is all short grain. So it's almost entirely like 100% going to happen. If you cut this like this, you seat that dovetail, and if there is any little bit of, if it's tight at all, you're going to snap that pin right off. Or if you're just handling this piece and you drop this corner on the bench or whatever, this whole piece is going to come right off. So I have done it before in the past where I have cut this on here, and it's more decorative. That piece almost always falls off, and I glue it back on later on. It's not really an issue once the piece is assembled, but just something to keep in mind that that's decorative. It's not structural if you do that. But I'm not doing that this time. So there's the, I guess the framework of the whole unit. So there's room in here when there's a shelf bottom in there. You can fit a bottle of oil in there. It'll still close, and this will help to contain things from moving around, and obviously tie the front and back together. So when you're pulling it open, that force is transferred to the whole unit. I think next what I'm going to do is make the shelf pin holes for the adjustable shelf. And what I thought of just like a second ago as I was getting ready to do this is, instead of having one big adjustable shelf, well, it's basically one wide single width shelf, having two that are narrower and can be adjusted independently and can be taken out and put back if you want to, for whatever reason you might want to do that. So we're going to do 2 rows of shelf pins, and then the way that I'm going to set this up to work is the shelf pins are going to be just inside of where the side of that tray is going to be, and then the bottom will be recessed so that when you put it down there onto the shelf pins, the front and back of the tray are up against the pins and lock it in place so they can't shift around laterally. So that's how we'll do the lateral thing, is the shelf pins will bear laterally onto the stretcher piece here. So we got some shelf pins to drill real quick. Probably just gonna do like 4 hole positions or four mounting positions or something like that. Then I think we'll get the bottoms cut and installed. Okay, so I did take this upstairs and mount it on some slides and try it out, and it works really nicely. The only thing with it is that, of course, it's a little bit floppy up top. It's got a little bit of shake to it, so we're going to add that second set of slides, which should help to reduce that. So we're going to need to remove some material from the front and from the back. So from the back, we are going to need to essentially create the notch as if we had done a captive bottom. So we have to notch away this material, and we also need to notch away or remove material all the way up to the front face for the thickness of the angle piece that actually makes up the body of the mount. And then the down inside of here, there is the plunger mechanism for the soft close, which also needs to pass through here and all of that. And then at the front though, the only thing is that when the drawer is all the way closed, there needs to be some clearance for the bottom of the slide to actually pass completely through the front. So there'll have to be a little slit at the front to allow this section here to pass through. I'm going to remove some of this notch material now, and then we'll make the actual slit for the body after the thing is assembled. Because we have the dovetail up here again, if I actually make this whole notch, this little tiny pin section here is going to become really weak, as we talked about earlier with the half tail down there. So I'm going to leave this cut until after I glue things up. Okay, there are both pairs of slides installed, and I don't know, it seems to be working out just fine. So I think from here, this pull-out thing can go ahead and get put in the pile for the finishing shop. But that's all it is. You got, this is basically like, this is an independent drawer from this. Or this was the drawer that we added this onto. All it takes is some notching. Okay, this thing is ready to go in. I already have the bottom slides installed from before for my tests, and I want to get these top slides installed. So how I'm going to figure out where to put them vertically. I have these scraps here that are cut to the height from the bottom of the slide to the top of the bottom of the what do you want to call it, organizer thing. So this kind of just fits in here like that. So I know that if I just add the thickness of the bottom onto this length, a piece like this, I can stack this guy in here. I can stack my little stick on top of that, and that is the height I need to mount that second set of slides at. Okay, so next I want to make the face that goes on here, and some of you noticed that this changed when I remade this face frame for this cabinet. The design was well, one of the designs was to have a top drawer on here, and then this pullout was just the lower section, so the same height as this one. But after I made and set this cabinet in here, I went back, I was watching some of the design meeting footage because I was trying to figure out some detail on something else, and I watched the section where we were talking about discussing the pullout, and for some reason in my head I thought that we had decided on the shorter pullout with the top drawer, but actually Lindsay said that she really wanted the full height pullout. So it was kind of a happy accident, I guess, that I had to remake this cabinet, to remake the face frame for it, because I ended up getting the correct pullout on here.
This is a rollout for...
Yeah, I need to figure out spices because I hate how mine are now. It drives me insane.
And this is more of that oil storage. You use the top, make that deeper so you can have oils and just grab from the top.
Can I make it bigger? I need way more space than that.
Yeah. Yep. Right now, this is about double this width. But the concept is the same. You'd roll it out and have access from both sides to get your oils and spices. Yeah. Now, the difference here in this one is that, see, this one goes all the way up to the countertop. And this one I'm using drawer on top, so it is one lower. So it'd probably just be 2 levels, which means you might want a little more. Or we make it full height here, so you gain all that space. Given what you're saying, we might just want to make that all the way.
But then will that look weird? Because it's like...
We make it faux.
You make it faux. You actually put, put lines in there so it looks like 2 pieces.
So we're going to do a fake drawer front, a fake rail, and then the V panels below. And that'll be our full one-piece face that just goes on there, and it looks like it's 2 things, but it's actually one big unit. So I have my V paneling. I ran that tongue groove. You've seen me do that so many times. There's those 2 pieces for the bottom section, and I was about to start on the top, which is, the rail with the drawer front, and then 2 shadow lines on either side of the rail. And I was hoping I could make that as one piece and just rip some grooves into the board to create those shadow lines. But this is my thinnest kerf blade, and it's still too thick to mimic the gap that's on the drawer right next to this. So I could do this on the router table. I think I have a 16th inch bit somewhere. I don't really know where it is. And it'll take a few passes, but whatever. I'm just going to do it in 2 pieces. So we're going to have a rail, and I'll put some little rabbits on either side of the rail to mimic those shadow lines, and then we'll have a full-size drawer front that's the same height as it would be needed for that opening if it was an opening, and then we can glue those 2 pieces together, and then we can glue that assembly to the V-groove paneling. And presto changeo, there is the finished facade and the whole unit sliding in and out of there. This is, I think, one of the things I'm the most excited about in this kitchen, just to have this open top, because currently we have all like the oil and vinegar bottles and things in an upper cabinet, and to get something in the back, you have to take out a bunch of stuff and dig through it. This way, you just literally pick up and grab what you need and put it right back. It's going to be way more convenient than what we have right now. So this is something we're really looking forward to. And then everyday spices and things will be elsewhere. This will all be like bulk spice storage. But that's the spice rack, oil rack, vinegar rack pull-out thing with the full facade. And the rails line up nicely and the shadow lines match up really well. This has to get adjusted just like pretty much every other face in the room, but I will deal with all the adjustments later on. Let's move on to the magic corner next. And there's a little bit of a fun little backstory I'll take you on with this thing. So when I was getting ready for the countertop install, I was kind of working through all of the things that should be done before countertops go in, either because they have to or because they will be easier to accomplish or finish before the countertops are installed. So since this is such like a big, deep unit, I figured it'd be easier if we had access to the top of the cabinet to install the actual mechanism. And this was another one of those, like, here's a somewhat hard to decipher instruction manual, but what made this one significantly easier is they included a pattern for all of the holes. So you just lay the pattern in there, punch and mark all your holes. That pattern made it a lot easier. However, as with everything in my life, there was a slight problem with this. If you remember back to when we were figuring out the size for all the upper cabinets, this cabinet was the wrong size. So instead of resizing the full cabinet, I just resized the face frame and left the cavity in the back the same size, because you're not going to miss the extra depth in the cabinet. It was 4 inches less deep. You wouldn't miss it except for the fact that this hardware required a 1/4 inch more clearance to actually fit into the cabinet. So that's when I had the, oh great, it's the night before the countertops come in, and now I have to modify this cabinet to fit this hardware. So I ended up removing the whole back side of the cabinet, scabbing on 3/4 inch of material to all of the horizontal pieces, slapping the side back on, and then I could finally fit the mechanism in there with a little bit of clearance. So that was a fun realization. The night before, couldn't do anything to fix it because the cabinet would be sitting there with a countertop on top of it. So to give you a quick look at how the mechanism works, the front section here gets pulled out of the opening like a drawer, and then as you pull this out and turn it sideways, the back part there will slide some more stuff forward, so your stuff that's hiding in the back there is now accessible from the main area here in the front without having to reach and dig way back there. And these little hook things here allow you to mount baskets to the unit, so you could have a few here and a few in the back, and those are what actually slides all your stuff around. You can buy pre-made baskets to fit in here, or you can buy these brackets here and make your own. You can get wire baskets, or you can get like a pretty basic wooden box that'll mount on here. But since everything else in the kitchen for boxes is white oak, I figured I'd go ahead and make my own and buy the brackets. And they just kind of hang on there like that. Now, I already made the bins off camera. They're pretty similar to the typical drawer boxes, except for 2 details. First off, the bottom is now flush because it can be. We don't need any space down here for any drawer hardware or clearance for anything. So this thing is set up to be flush to the bottom of the box. And then the other thing you might notice is that the joinery is slightly different. So because these brackets are going to cover up the whole side, I wanted the dovetails themselves to be displayed on the front, because when the bracket goes on here like this, you lose sight of the entire side of the box. All you're going to see is the front. So I've shifted the joinery around so that the tailboard is on the front versus the side, like you would see on a normal drawer. These things are intended for some pretty thin drawer box stock, so there isn't a whole lot of stud length on here. So these have to get recessed into the thickness. I think these are made for like a 1/4 inch thick drawer box. and mine are 5/8. So I will do a stepped hole, and then they can be installed. So now to get the door mounted, it gets this bracket attached to the back, and they give you a diagram of where it's supposed to go. And you have to do some math based off of your setup down here and what your desired gap is supposed to be to figure out some numbers. To then, I got some layout lines drawn on the door here, so I can line this thing up now and then actually put the screws in centered along all of those lines. Oh, you just missed it. I didn't have the camera on, but I was drilling this pilot hole for the screw, and I was going, and then there was no more resistance all of a sudden, and it went down. I'm like, oh no, I drilled all the way through. I didn't. I drilled into a pocket in the mortise. Oh, that was plenty heart attack for one day. Oh my goodness. Let's not do that again. Okay, I'm glad I checked this because in order for this knob to work, it's going to be behind this bracket, so I need to actually countersink the screw head for the knob and install the knob before I install this bracket. And there is an arm on the front here. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got some adjustments to make, I guess. Oof. This is supposed to do up and down. What am I doing now? Am I going down? I think that was down. That was down. Maybe a little more down. Okay, then we gotta go left. Let me see which one that is. These little dial doodads make it go left and right. Let's see where that takes me. Too much left. Other way. Other way. Other left. And then I think I can adjust the kick out on the bottom because the bottom's kicking out on the right side. This is a little bit out. Where's that arm? That's pretty close. That's probably good enough for now. Okay, so this one is kind of done. That's kind of it for this guy. One of the things we'll do later on with all the lighting is I'm planning on putting a light in here to illuminate these things when this thing opens, and that'll be part of the greater lighting video later on. But at least that's one more thing off the list. There's the magic corner. So that's the magic corner. Let's move on to the trash. So like most things, we start with the plans. So here's how the trash cans are designed to work. So the cans are supposed to sit down into this like box thing, and then the top is called out as a piece of stainless steel. So as you're looking down at the top of it, you have two cutouts for cans, and then the whole surface is stainless steel to make it, nice and easy to clean. Now normally I don't do a whole lot of actual design work or CAD stuff, but this is something that I wanted to get correct, and because I want to get this actually cut out of stainless steel. So I bought the actual cans and got some measurements for them. So the outside here is the actual perimeter of that lip, And then the inside there is the I guess the offset or the size of the hole that they would need to actually drop through. So once I had these dimensions figured out, I went ahead and did a mock-up here in MDF. I cut out this hole size to the dimension I thought it was going to be. I cut these radiuses in the corner to the radiuses I had kind of planned for in the design. And here is one of the cans. It fits down in there, and there is, you know, enough play side to side, so it's not going to be a super tight fit. And it's also kind of easy to get your fingers in there and pull the cans out. So now from here, I just need the actual cutouts and the overall dimension and everything. So that's what this plan is here, or this design is. Has those final radiuses. The corners have very slight radiuses, and this is, or I guess radii, and this is what I converted to a DXF and sent off to be cut. And then here is that part all cut out into reality, into stainless steel. It's a 1/4 inch thick. And this was cut by Send Cut Send. So you upload your DXF and you can see it all, and then the little online thing to make sure everything looks right. And it was a really cool experience. I've been wanting to try them for a while for random parts that I might want to have cut. And this took just under a week to get here. And the cost on this being stainless steel was $234. So that is what we are going to use as sort of our starting point for the actual top of the bin. Now, like I said, I don't normally model things a whole lot, but I did go ahead and model kind of the rest of the whole garbage can bin thing just to get a better feel for all the dimensions. That's more or less what I do most of my modeling for, is when I just need to figure out overall dimensions. So this doesn't have any joinery drawn, but it gives me my overall sizes of all my parts and gives me a good feel for how it's all going to be constructed. So we have the bin drop-in area there. The bottom is open, just some pieces to catch the drawer slides. And then this side is your sort of storage area. So yesterday I pulled the stock for the box thing, and this is it here. The only thing you're really going to see is that one side. That's what this is going to be. I picked this cool piece of 1/4 sawn white oak for that. This will be cut in half and slip joined. So that'll be that side, and the rest of the stuff you'll never really see, except for the other side. It has like the lower rail. So I got some 1/4 sawn stuff for down there. Back panel, intermediate panel, and then some random pieces for the rest of it. So let's make some panels and start making a weird box with some holes in the top. So that takes care of the, I guess, the more exciting, different joinery. This is more like building a case for like a chest of drawers or something, but with the front main side and on the back joined. I can kind of keep going from here. So now that I have this distance here, I can cut and fit that middle divider, which is going to go right here. Use this measurement here to make sure that it is set evenly, because it's going to be inside here. And normally if this was like a case piece, I would do probably like some kind of Morse and tenon thing here. But because of the trash can, I'm just going to use a domino to join it. And then when we do the actual glue up, I can use screws in the front and the back to evenly pull that thing all the way in. If there is any sort of cup in these panels, we're going to suck that out with screws versus having to put some clamping cauls to get clamping pressure out here in the middle. We also have the top and bottom stretcher things to go to complete the joinery. And as I was working on this, I thought of one thing I can do as far as a secondary set of drawer slides, and that is on the top section. That's where I can hide my second set. Instead of maybe having to make the shelf fixed, I can make the second slide mount up top here, and that'll take care of that too. So I think for this little section of work, we got the middle divider, we have the two end stretcher pieces, and then I'll also go ahead and make all the shelf pin holes for the adjustable shelf while it's all kind of apart. Here's a quick look at where we're at with the stainless on top there. That's sort of the overall feel of the giant box garbage can holder thing. So we're pretty close to glue up. There's a couple of things I want to take care of before we glue up the box. I need to install, or at least cut and fit the bottom panel for in here. That'll be what's actually going to support the slides on this side. We're also going to need something up here too for the second hidden slide. So I need another false bottom here, and then we'll have to make those same notches like we did on the spice rack thing to allow the slide to pass through there. Once those are done, we can glue up the box. I'll have to make this adjustable shelf, and then we'll have some ledgers on this side which will support this slide, and I'll put a few pieces going front to back to help support the garbage cans so they're not just hanging completely on the lip, but those things over there can all be added after glue up. So last thing, here we go. We're gonna pull this thing apart again and finish up everything on the storage shelf side. And then we can go for glue up, I think. Unless I forgot something, which is totally possible. Yeah, this thing is just about ready to head off for finishing, but a couple little details I just added off camera. Down the bottom there, I included these little strips so that when the trash can is sitting in there on the stainless steel, it's not just fully supported by the lip. The pieces down there pick up a lot of the weight. And then on the top edge, I put these little cove things in here. That'll give me a place to put some silicone. So when I attach the stainless to this, I have a nice little spot for some silicone. So this thing is ready to head off for finishing. So this thing is back from finish and ready to go in. So the first thing I'm going to do to start kind of prepping the opening is install this thing. It's an automated drawer opener gadget doodad. So when the drawer is closed and it gets tapped a little bit, this thing kicks it open for you. Normally, these things are set up to work with overlay drawer fronts. So they have these little spring doodads that you put into, let's see right here, the face of your drawer, and that closes against the face frame or the box before the slides actually fully close. And then when you tap the opening, the whole drawer moves in a little bit based off that spring, and that's how the sensor knows that someone is pushing on the drawer. I can't do that because I have fully inset, so I need some other way to stop the slides a little short and have them still be able to have just a little bit of motion back to trigger this thing. So this is what I have come up with. We'll see it. Hopefully this works. So I got this little block here with that spring mounted in the bottom, and I'm going to mount this thing right back here behind this slide. And you can see it is just a little bit too big. So when the slide actually closes, it closes against that spring stop, and it still has a little bit of motion here up against that spring. So it will close early, and then as you push on the drawer front, that's going to push the drawer front into the opening a little bit, trigger the sensor and it should kick it open, or at least that's my theory. So I'm going to mount a block on either side. There's a hole pattern template for this thing, which is this right here. So we will drill the mounting holes for that unit inside the cabinet, get the power run to it, and then test fit it with the actual box and see if that thing kicks it open or not. I turned up the opening force. Let's see if it kicks it open a little further. There we go. That actually was one of the least fussy things I've installed so far. I'm actually surprised. I was not expecting it to work on this first try. Okay, well that works. So I guess now I can actually route this power wire and then we'll finish getting this drawer thing installed. Now for the stainless, I'm just gonna set this thing on here to see how it kind of looks for now. I need to clean this thing up and get it a little more, pretty looking, but with the bins in there, there's kind of the finished result. I like this thing. I think this is gonna be awesome. I'm really glad that I added that opener, because one of the last things you want to do is, like, your hands are dirty or whatever, you want to throw something away. I don't really want to touch this, especially with it being all white and everything. So having that give a little push with your body somewhere and it opens without touching it, that's pretty slick. So that's the trash pullout, the magic corner, and the oil vinegar spice rack pullout. This whole kind of corner is built out and wrapped up, and that takes care of six more drawer boxes. There are, I believe, the last time I counted, there are 48 total drawer boxes in this kitchen, and that's 6 more, 2 being fairly large undertakings as far as drawer boxes go. And of course, we still have plenty more holes to fill, and we'll keep working through those in further future episodes. What am I saying? We got more work to do, of course. So that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the pull-out things or anything back in the shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.